After the Kalou by-election humiliation, William Ruto resorted to teach the people from the Mount Kenya region a lesson and perhaps to revenge the kind of shame they'd presented him to after giving them everything. After spending millions and billions of money in Kalou constituency, they still denied him and also refused to vote for the UDA candidate in Kalou constituency. And as a result, William Ruto planned to send away or rather fire all the cabinet secretaries from Mount Kenya and to award that opportunity to other tribes that are also or rather those other tribes that want to appreciate or rather are appreciative to the government of President William Ruto. The idea was that the people from the Mount Kenya region are the great beneficiaries of this government, the Kenya Kwanza government, yet again they are the people who are rallying behind one-term narratives and also claiming that William Ruto should be a one-term president. And in so doing, President William Ruto resorted and also made a decision of firing all the cabinet secretaries in his government to give room for other individuals from Luo Nyanza and also Western, since right now he has shifted his attention from Mount Kenya region to the Western region. However, things still look so bad. I'm giving this explanation or this analysis based on what the Kapseret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi just said today after a press conference where he indicated that he couldn't have allowed President William Ruto to fire some of the cabinet secretaries. And then another question comes, who is Oscar Sudi to say no to the decision that has been made by William Ruto? That is what we're going to answer in this analysis. But first, let us listen to the video of Oscar Sudi speaking about the sacking of the cabinet secretaries from Mount Kenya and also, saying something against it. Watch this.
Singekubali mtu yote Mount Kenya atolewe kwa kiti. Kwa sababu ile kiti William Ruto anakalia kwa sasa, watu walichangia mali kubwa ni watu wa Mount Kenya. So wako na haki ya maendeleo, wako na haki ya hiyo fiketi, hata kama fiti nyingine ikipatikana waongezewe. Kwa sababu tusigange ajayo, tuseme yenyewe kwa sasa. Watu wa Mount Kenya ndio walifanya William Ruto akakuwa rais wa Kenya. So nisidhani kama hiyo inawezekana.
Now, that is Kapseret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi, who is giving us the reality and telling us what happened immediately after William Ruto lost the Kalou by-election. From his words, is saying that many people were calling on William Ruto to fire the cabinet secretaries from Mount Kenya, but himself he said that he couldn't allow President William Ruto to fire those cabinet secretaries since Mount Kenya is the one that gave William Ruto more votes, and those votes, in fact, they contributed a great deal for William Ruto to be the president of Kenya. They gave out 3.5+ million votes to William Ruto. So from the statement, he said that he couldn't allow. It means President William Ruto already had made his mind to revenge against the Mount Kenya region after that disturbing humiliation that made William Ruto so bitter. When you look at William Ruto after the Kalou incident, you can realize that this man is distressed. This man is stressed up about the future of his career because in as much as he has reached that kileleni, bado hajafika kiwango cha kuama, manake hajamaliza misimu yake miwili. So everything is not working for President William Ruto. Now my concern is about President William Ruto trying to fire the people from Mount Kenya region just because of the Kalou by-election. And I'm asking myself a question. What if, God forbid, President William Ruto defends his seat as the president in the next term for the second term? What will he do to the people of Mount Kenya? Because it's very real here. It is true that William Ruto is a vengeful man, and he has already planned on how to avenge or to revenge the people of Mount Kenya. However, it's like the advisors and some of his friends, the likes of that class 3 Oscar Sudi, but I don't think that Oscar Sudi can advise the president. But then we have other leaders in the government who can advise President William Ruto. So after that advice is when William Ruto withdrew his decision. However, I'm reliably informed that there is a reshuffle coming so soon in the cabinet of President William Ruto, and some of the cabinet secretaries are going to be, slashed out, and including many more from Mount Kenya, in as much as others are saying no, in as much as Oscar Sudi is saying no. But there are some of the Mount Kenya cabinet secretaries who will be actually fired in the coming reshuffle. Even some places and some dockets will be created so that those loyalists from from Lowland and Western Kenya will be awarded, because Mount Kenya, in the view of President William Ruto, is not and will never support him in the coming election. So it seems that the Kalou by-election meant so much for President William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua. For President William Ruto, if he had won that election, it could have defined his base in Mount Kenya. It could have solidifies his wave in Mount Kenya. You know, in Kenya, politics goes with the wave. Now that the Kalou loss, many people in Kenya now feel like William Ruto has completely lost it in Mount Kenya and in the entire Kenya, in the entire country. That is a loss, because those people believed in President William Ruto even in Kalou before that election happened. But now that President William Ruto has been seen as a loser by many people, Rigathi Gachagua is claiming so many things about against President William Ruto. Now it has motivated and changed the attitude. The people who loved President William Ruto, the attitude now is changed towards hating President William Ruto, and that will also replicate in the coming election, whereby people will not vote for him. And on Rigathi Gachagua, in fact, it has multiplied his fame, it has multiplied the love people had for him. And in fact, today, while in Kirinyaga, Rigathi Gachagua held a rally there, and he had a huge number of people. He had a huge crowd. Yeah, that tells you that the Kalou incident, the Kalou win must have boosted Rigathi Gachagua's image so much to members of Mount Kenya and even the country at large. And remember, in Kirinyaga, this is where Anne Waiguru is. He is the governor, and he has she has for the longest time supported President William Ruto, and she has been standing so firm, saying that President William Ruto must have 2 terms. However, we saw recently when she apologized on behalf of the president, saying that it was wrong to impeach Rigathi Gachagua. But right now is when the heat has increased. The temperatures are so high in Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya wants to chart their own journey, their own way ahead of 2027. However, they don't have any better presidential candidate, and that means that the former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua might decide to hawk the Mount Kenya votes to someone else, or maybe the highest bidder. However, the former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua is another vengeful man. He really wants to revenge against President William Ruto, and his pride is to see President William Ruto is out of that seat. He has become a one-term. That alone will make Rigathi Gachagua to be so happy. Now back to what happened, what he was saying, what Oscar Sudi was saying. It is clear indication whatever Rigathi Gachagua has been saying is true, because Rigathi Gachagua for the longest time has been claiming that President William Ruto does not like the Kikuyus, does not like giving those places to Kikuyus. He's the one who fought for them, and due to that fight, it equally contributed to his impeachment as the deputy president. And therefore, the people from the Mount Kenya region is like now they've agreed. I saw a video online of the Ruri Ward MCA who is in UDA, and also who used to camp in Kalou villages to pitch campaigns and pitch support for Samuel Moshina. So the people in Ruri ward, they came together and they blocked that MCA from accessing the ward, because they say he is a traitor. He's someone who contributed to the loss of lives, to the beating some of the goons had beaten the people in Kalou. I don't know what you think, but you can write your comment down there in the comment section. Let us talk, let us discuss. Perhaps it can form a basis of whatever we're going to talk about in the next video. So if you're new here,